Pitch Breakfast presents Pitch Battle. All right, everybody, so again, this is the first time we do this evening event, so we are learning as we go. One of the things that we've learned is we definitely need a second microphone. So what we're gonna do for this next round, Eric, if it's all right with you, is that as soon as you're done with your pitch, we're gonna give the microphone to the panel, and then we're gonna ask all three of the panelists to ask a question, and then we'll give the microphone back to you. So you're just gonna have to remember a few questions. Does that work? Awesome, thank you. So real quick, we do want to have a shout out to one of our sponsors who made this event possible, Spengler and Agins. They are the attorneys, yes. They are the attorneys for Charlotte's startup community, and they work with entrepreneurs and local businesses on everything from formation to early stage funding. So let's give a big thank you to Spengler and Agins for helping us with this event. And with that, Eric, if you want to come up here, I'll get your slides ready.
Hi, my name's Eric. I'm a physician assistant. But early in my career, I got known as a good clinical speaker. And pharmaceutical companies would pay me a ton of money to speak in front of my peers about their products. One time I spoke for 2 hours on a bigger stage, fancy props, in front of about 90 people, and they brought them an amazing buffet. Anyway, I caught up with the organizer of the event afterwards and asked them some questions. And they told me with a straight face that they spent $250,000 on that one event. $250,000 for 90 people. I think most of them were there for the free food. So it turns out that this is the status quo in this industry. Pharmaceutical companies spend $30 billion a year on these type of events called product detailing. Most of these are live events. There have been attempts to do virtual versions, but it just hasn't gotten traction with the medical community. It turns out they need a value proposition to use the internet. So I took a few steps back and did some research and realized that there has been traction when it comes to virtual learning, or CME. Medical providers have gone from 100% live CME events to more than half virtual learning over the past decade. So I thought that there's got to be a way to combine the two, much like at our conferences where we have exhibitor halls. But there was a lot of political, cultural, and even regulatory obstacles. So we interviewed hundreds of doctors, association leaders, and regulators to come up with a solution. And that's how we came up with MedPortal. MedPortal is a neutral, open CME marketplace where medical associations can create, market, and sell their CME for free. Users can, through a single convenient login, pick all of their associations, much like a customized cable package, for free. There we go. And all of their CME from their various associations will show up in the dashboard. But it's not just for CME, there's other content as well that's curated by the associations, independent authors, and yes, pharmaceutical product detailing, but not for free. So we can track and report all the CME for all of our users from all of their associations. Likewise, we can track and report all of the vendor activity for our vendors. And our dashboard has some smart features, and that can look at a user's background, affiliations, and previously read content to choose the products and the detailing that should be at the top of their dashboard. The go-to-market strategy is simple. We align our interests and partner with professional medical associations, and they bring in all the users for very low customer acquisition cost. We keep our users engaged by facilitating content through the associations, through authors, and through the vendors. And lastly, we monetize, primarily through our vendors, but also we have some ancillary revenue streams as well. So just to put this into perspective, I have a contact in Raleigh who manages these types of events for 23 major pharmaceutical companies and over 100 products. He's very familiar with what they're willing to spend, what they're looking for, and what they'll pay. He said that if we can get 50,000 users in the portal, that they would pay an average of $500,000 per product per year. We're already working with the AAFP, and they have 150,000 members. So if we commission him to bring in 10 vendors at 3 products each, that would equal $15 million in revenue. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. So last year, we did some customer discovery, we built a minimal viable product, and we tested both the platform and our business processes with limited content users. We worked with local associations, state associations, and a few national. And we successfully proved the model. This year, we've done a little bit more customer discovery. We're in a process of building a commercially viable product, which brings me to our fundraising. Our current need is about $350,000, which we've raised about 3/4 at this point. We're also seeking a chief marketing officer, which segues to the team. The important point with our team is that they've all done their due diligence. They're all very talented people, and they're putting in their own time and money because they believe this is going to be a successful project. But we have Eric, who is the chief business architect for Pegasystems. Todd is a managing director for Acuity CFO. Chris is the founder of 27 Software and inventor of the DART software, and Jim McGuire owns a videography studio here in Charlotte.
Sure. There we go. All right. Eric, my understanding is that fundamentally physicians coming to this marketplace primarily to try and fulfill their CME hours, right? I'm interested in understanding how you're going to turn that into their willingness to understand with the product-focused content, which I would presume is where you're going to generate value and revenue from.
Yes.
I guess we just kind of go through. No, go ahead.
All right.
Sorry about that. Okay. So I'm trying to understand exactly how CMEs are fulfilled today. What's the size of the market? Are they required? What's the I don't really have a good sense of the market size and or how they're monetized today and how they're distributed and how physicians come about selecting them. So I get this sense, you talked about a pharma company paying $500,000 per product. So do physicians get to sort of pick and choose, hey, I want to learn about this particular product or this particular procedure? Like, I don't really understand the market, so I'd love to just get a better sense of how it all works generally today.
Yeah, and I think my question was going to be, certainly on the monetization, but also the legality of a product company that's trying to reach physicians. Is there any risk in the model from these pharma companies paying associated with CMEs?
All right, can you remember all those questions? I
think so. All right, let's try it.
Okay, well, so I'll go to the last question since I remember it. We spent a lot of time actually showing our MVP and our model to regulatory bodies to make sure that we're in compliance, because it's actually different virtual from live, but there are a lot of regulations of what you can and can't do with CME. And there's a lot of private companies that do only CME, and there's a lot of associations that do CME, but they have kind of a third party with a vendor hall, and there has to be clear separation. There's no way you can separate a search engine. You know, if you search something on Google, there'll be CME if you search a topic, and there'll be vendor, and then there'll be all kinds of other stuff. We kind of fall in the search engine category. We're neutral. And as long as we have certain degrees of separation, that's been okayed out so far by the ACCME and all the accrediting bodies that we've talked to. First question, Ron. Oh, okay, so I got it. So how do we get them to look at the product details? The truth is, it is part of their job. You know, when you're a doctor or a physician assistant and you want to prescribe something, you need to know about it. That's why branding marketing doesn't really work in the pharmaceutical industry. They want to get them familiar with the products and comfortable with the diseases and what they're ordering. The challenge is, you know, they are busy people and you need to make it as convenient as possible. Usually what they do is they try to pair it at a conference with a vendor exhibit hall or whatnot. That's usually not when you're looking for that information. So again, we have targeting where we see that a doctor's been studying diabetes a lot lately. So we make sure that at the top of their dashboard, a lot of diabetes-related products and other articles show up as well. So it's at the top of their brain. And I think we're gonna change it. Right now, it's a lot of dinners and lunches and 2-hour talks, and half the time, all you really wanna do is talk to the expert doctor who's given the talk to begin with. That's, that all the other stuff they can look up. So what we did is we make more like 5-10-minute snippets. So the doctor will look up something very specific about that drug. And there's no reps in our portal, and that also makes it compliant. It's all medical experts pharmaceutical companies pay to be available virtually. And we do have interactive features. So there's Q&A, just like on LinkedIn, you might ask a question, it notifies the author, and then they can respond. And the last question was? How does the market work today? Okay. Sure. So the CME market specifically. CME market is only a $2 to $4 billion industry. I say only because medical marketing, if you add up medical device, staffing, and so forth, it's about $100 billion. So we do take some small transaction fees. For nonprofit associations, we generally don't unless they have us do the videography for their conference or the streaming or things like that. But, and we have contracts already to do that upon completion of this. And they'll make us a few $100,000 here and there. But again, our goal is mostly to get the content in there, get the associations in there, and get the users, because the medical professionals are the real currency. We want to create a way that's much more cost effective for them to market, for the vendors, and to maybe bring the product prices down and push that revenue more towards the experts than sales reps. I hope there's no sales reps here, no offense.
I don't know if I need the mic, but can you talk about the competitive marketplace? So for example, in product detailing, American Home Products, isn't that a product detailing company? I think it's a big public company out of New Jersey. So you take a group like that says, hey, this is a great idea. We can invest $2 million tomorrow to create a portal that allows that detailing right from our existing sort of platform. How do you create barriers and block out?
Yeah, our biggest barrier, we've looked at patents on software and things like that, but our biggest barrier is the relationship. Once we get an association using our software, there's no reason for them to use someone else's. And part of our contracts is we go into all their conferences, stream them or record them and put them into our portal. It's actually we do it for free, but they also let us into their conferences for free. And that's actually a great way for us to meet the vendors. And once we're doing that, we've kind of rooted ourselves in there. And once they're putting their content in our portal, most at CME has expiration of 1 to 2 years. So they're not going to choose another partner unless we're really screwing up, for a good 1 to 2 years. And by then, we're probably further ahead than anybody else.
So you likened yourself to a search engine, and then you said we're neutral. And so I've dealt with Google a lot. They don't strike me as extremely neutral. So in a lot of ways, you're curating people who pay to be on the platform. Like, how do you enforce neutrality? Are you also creating search results for people who aren't paying you to be on the platform?
So for a user, the dashboard basically they can search and filter any way they want. When they first log on, the dashboard is going to show a priority of things based on their background, affiliations, and previously read content. So it's going to have a mix of CME, non-CME, some product detailing type stuff. And they can filter or choose however they want. Again, to stay CME compliant, we have to do that. We cannot force vendor information down their throat. They have to choose it. But we kind of pinpoint the right people. A lot of these talks, people show up just for the free food, and they're spending a lot of money on these type of events without any targeting. And then there's the people who didn't want to come out that night, or they work for the hospital, and the hospital doesn't allow them to attend these type of events. It's a true story, but I think I've finished answering that question.
Eric, what's the current status of the business? Is this live, you have content on it, and physicians are using it to fulfill their CME requirements, or you're not there yet?
Back here. So we are in the middle of phase 2, developing the commercially viable product. Our MVP had very limited content that it could support very limited users. We ran through the motions of going to the conferences, meeting everybody, enrolling users, we determine our customer acquisition costs, we determine the cost of supporting the content. We demonstrated that we can enroll about 80% of an association's members through the conferences, and about another 40% when they reach out to those members. I think about 20% return user rate, and we even had some of our users become authors and start to publish. We just did this for, I think about 5 months, ran the MVP, then we went back, did a little more customer discovery, worked more on just focusing on building the commercially viable platform, which is, we've built the architecture, we just wouldn't be able to support it if we launch it today until we finish our fundraising.
How often does a physician come into the portal, and how do you create sort of this loop for them to come back to you every time they're looking for CMEs?
So our MVP run, again, was limited to a 4 to 6 season. With most of after the conference, we generally had some extra content. We intentionally preloaded a few weeks later to see who would return and so forth. There's definitely a happy hour effect we're gonna have to get past in the long run, and we're probably, once we're ready, we are gonna launch, we're gonna have a lot of associations. There's a lot of overlap between associations, so you can go to one association's conference and the other. Again, with this one, it was very limited, so I would say in general for each type of association, each type of user, it tend to fizzle out after a few months, but we only had so much content.
On average, how often does a medical professional engage in CMEs?
Good question. So right now, based on my customer discovery interviews, I'm in the 200s for medical professionals. About half is done at conferences. They usually do once a year, and about half is online, which can be all at once if they have to renew their license and they forgot to do all their CME. Some kind of do here and there whenever they can.
The frequency of license.
Oh, it's different. Every state, every license.
Okay.